Hi, Richard. Hi, Jack. How you doing, guys?
Hi there.
Hey, Harper, you're right.
Yeah, good. So we're all sitting in the comfort of our own homes, getting ready for XVU, the 14th and the 15th of October. It should be an exciting event. Rich, I know you've been doing a lot of work for us over the years to really sort of cover off advanced configuration for a lot of our clients. And I know you've met a lot of our customer demands through ACT. ACT, from my perspective, and I'm sure you've got a sort of greater in depth than I ever have, has been a sort of a supported tool. Unit 4 are pushing it to bits, always have been. We've worked on it through in web and back office, and a lot of professional developers have been using it. So, your thoughts on ACT, Rich?
ACT is, in my opinion, a very powerful tool that most consultants and developers should have access to meet a business requirement. However, it should be considered as an available tool, not the first solution. The main point of ACT is it allows you to achieve non-standard functionality and very bespoke, tailored solutions to meet a business requirement. So again, the take-home message is it should be considered, but only in light of no option that can be achieved through standard solution.
Yeah, great. And I know, so across the elements we've worked on, across the elements it's available on, so we've done work on menu screens, which we'll talk about in a bit, or actually we'll show off some of the bits we've done. I've seen ACT being used, and I know you've done some work on this, and I've seen other consultants use ACT and server processes. Probably less on web services and workflow, but I know the options are available. It's just really thinking about what the problems are, what the limitations of the system are, and seeing how we can use it. So I'm going to go through some of the, if it's okay with you, Rich, I'm just going to showcase some of the work that you've done for some of our clients. This, again, I won't try not to mention any client's name, but it's always easy to slip into that. But if you remember this piece of configuration, this was, we had a client that wanted to move existing documents from one document archive type to another. So if I remember correctly, this is just uploading new files from one file type how locally back up to another again. Is that right?
That's right. I mean, just to give you a bit of a summary of the issue. In this organisation, there was an audit risk which occurred when they had the expense module installed, and unfortunately, a lot of their employees was attaching receipt expenses directly against the resource master file and not against the actual receipt transaction, which was a major audit risk and ran into loads of problems. So we were brought in to create a solution which allowed us to actually migrate the existing documents from the legacy expense document type and reconnect it to the actual transaction of the receipt. And we were able to achieve this by just uploading a CSV file with the new mapping and processing the data, which brought all the information across.
Yeah, so it was a nice export-import tool, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think we had a pretty satisfied client from that. So it's always
it met their audit requirements, so they were very happy with that.
So again, I've been in the Unit 4 aggresso world, and I will use the word aggresso because I started back in 20 odd years ago. And this has always been very difficult to achieve, and we've tried to do this, I think, by using things like Accelerator in the past, by just getting a simple report or a simple output of user access and what menu access they've got attached to the person and the roles that sort of sit within them. So, Rich, tell me a bit about this.
So, as everyone's probably aware, most system administration teams, they've probably had a request from the auditors to say, what access does Joe Block have? This functionality that we've created, this tool set, allows us to produce a PDF output of just the menu access that they have. Nothing more, nothing less. It suppresses menu items which they don't have access to and just shows what they have. So instead of like 40 pages being printed out, you now have one. And the really nice thing about this is we can run it for a role a position, or for a user.
Yeah, and I can see lots of examples of where it would be where I've used it for users in the past. So we tried to do this for our accelerator reports, and whilst it's possible, it became really clunky and cumbersome. So Rich, this is a soft close feature that you've created. Tell me a bit about this.
So this is a solution we achieved for one of our clients, where we had the requirement where they had loads of requisitions. They were raised of requisitions, and the work order or the cost center or various other geoanalysis code would need to be closed off. However, they would still have invoices in flight. Using the solution that we've created, we were able to, the end user is now able to simply set the relation of the cost of the geoanalysis to close, to soft close, and it will now stop them raising new requisitions and expenses, but
Yeah.
still allow them to process invoices.
Yeah, so Rich, that is great. And again, that's why I wanted you to introduce this soft close feature. As a project manager in a lot of professional services organizations that I've been working in recently, this is a complete game changer. And I know it's going to create or save a lot of time for their system admin teams. And guess what, Rich? I'm going to be speaking to a number of organizations about this.
That's excellent to hear.
So the next couple of bits, I know you've been doing a lot of work on screen validation. So I know, remember this one, I think you told me about this on the subscription module. And I know this has been a bugbear for many a time. So at the point at which you close a subscription, you can't open a subscription again. So I know you built something where you can go from a closed to a parked status on a subscription. That's great. Okay, between you and I, Rich, do you think this is a bit of a bug in the subscription screen?
Yeah, I can understand why there's a requirement to you lock it down completely, but due to audit concerns. But it really depends on the organisation, and as we've seen from other things like purchase orders and sales orders, if you close them off, you can still reopen them.
Yeah.
So sort of
Yeah.
bring it in line with the rest of the system, in my opinion.
So, okay, you didn't answer it's a political answer you gave me. It probably is a bug in the system, isn't it? But that's fine. But our client was happy with it, so that's always great.
You met their requirement, which is the main thing.
Met the requirement, exactly. So yeah, Rich. So this is another example of using ACT for screen validation. Actually, I know you're going to get really excited to tell me a bit about this as well, aren't you?
I'll try and contain myself. We do have a lot to cover, so I'm just going to give a very quick explanation of this. So, in the top right, we see a scenario where the responsible and the salesman is being validated based on the customer group, but it's actually a soft close. It's like a sort of soft warning, so you can still go ahead with the entry if you need to override it. And the bottom left, we see the scenario of a hard stop, where the cost has been validated on certain facets of data. The idea of this is normally a consultant a business will set up a workflow to handle certain validations of certain bits of data that needs to be validated, which standard screens don't to achieve. Whereas now we can actually sort of stop it and validate it at the point of them typing in the data set.
Yeah, and again, these are all amazing examples of using advanced configuration tools just to get more out of the application and sort of bespoke it to individual requirements. And the advantage of all these ACT tools is, as Rich, we've demonstrated time and time again, just because we developed them for one client, we can take these across to other people. We can repeat the use of these things. So that is amazing. So, Rich, we looked at using ACT for screens, and I know you've done a lot of work around using ACT for server processes. I can introduce a little bit about this particular one for a particular authority we've been working with. So if I remember correctly on this, and you can sort of fill in the gaps, my gaps. So we've got as an estate management system who push files out into XML, and the server processes we've created has been going out to that estate management system, taking the files out of XML and doing the heavy lifting and getting a file back into a ready format for SO13 to run.
That's right. So this case here, we've created a server process which goes out to the estate management system, pulls the XML file, checks to see if there's any new XML files of the day, pulls it back and transcodes it from the estate management system format and imports it into the business world format, and then takes it in and loads it for the the LGO4 process as a sales order, ready for invoicing. The really nice feature of this is traditionally when you did this kind of stuff, you'd have to do it as Intel set of Intel agents reports, an Intel agent with about 5, 6, 7 steps, which can cause quite a few issues when it's trying to debug it. So this server process sort of handles all that whilst keeping very good audit and exception report monitoring.
Yeah, and I do remember actually, Rich, on this particular one, when we spoke to the estate management provider, because they're a pure cloud-based solution, and because they're quite a small organization, they really weren't going to get into the realms of sort of creating LGO4 flat files or any sort of talking about the system. So the onus is on us to actually do something, otherwise we wouldn't have been able to connect.
That's exactly right. There was no option for us they would not consider sort of write it in the business world format. So we had no choice but to take that work on and make it into the right formats for them.
Yeah, great. And I do remember this one, and this dates back
this one
quite a while, doesn't it? So I remember, and again, this is something that always gets me. So if you put a password protection on a period, the screen will validate. So in other words, in a G07 screen, in a VP10 screen, as soon as you try to enter a journal, it will sort of say, you need to give me your password, which is quite right to do that. But it's a bit nonsensical because you could run a GL07 and post to a password protected period, and there'll be no issues with it, and the system will take it in. So I think if I remember correctly, this server process you've created now, it does exactly the same thing as the screen, doesn't it? In other words, it's saying, give me the password, otherwise I'm not going to let you in.
So this is actually a modification to the GL07 process. So traditionally, there's been a very long-standing issue, what I consider a bit of a bugbear of the GL07 process, where if you were to enter if you were to select a non-closed period, but in the GL07 flat file have the period set to a password protected period, and you loaded that, the GL07 will say it's not a closed period. I'm going to post it to the password protected period. And a lot of business analysts that I've heard of scenarios where a lot of business analysts will actually go out and actually use this to sort of avoid having to and it can cause quite a few problems at month end. So this process this modification to the GL07 process prevents this. It ensures that the password selected in the BIF file if it's a password protected one, it must match the period on the GL07. So it still allows you to do a crawling for future months which are open. It just makes that sort of hard stop if the BIF file password protection period is different to the GL07 variant.
That's great, Rich. So you've demonstrated using ACT for screen validations. You've demonstrated using screen for ACT for server processes or modifying server processes. Where do you want to take it from here, mate?
Well, I just want to stress the point that ACT is a very powerful tool, a configuration tool that is available to consultants and developers and can be used to meet business requirements. We have a lot of experience in it, in developing it, and we have been doing it for over 10 years now. Really, if you've got any business requirements that you think can be achieved by ACT, then please contact us and we'll see what we can do on this front, and sort of maybe just talk it through with you and sort of see if ACT is the right solution or whether other configuration or maybe even using People Platform is the better option.
Yeah, we like a challenge. So we're at the conference 14th and 15th of October. Please find us on the virtual booth, and look forward to seeing you guys. So guys, we'll get together tomorrow and we can talk about People Platform.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Marvel.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.